just like her.
Everybody shut up. Are we live yet?
Yes.
Negative K, nothing further. Just Kitty Cammy in the corner. That's a direct order. Do it now.
Good afternoon. Today is Thursday, January 5th, 2025. We are roll call, black, white, and blue for better relations. I'm here with a few of my friends. I have D with us, AC. Welcome back, JT. I'll get ready to say welcome back, Carter, but welcome back, JT. We got Will Quick, we got Mark, we got Jerry, we got Melba, we got Derek, we got Rich. Welcome back, Derek from Cancun.
Thank you.
Kyle
Thanks.
and Cheech. All right, so we got a few of our friends here. I know others will probably join on with us. But in the meantime, we're gonna move forward. I'm gonna ask for a moment of silence before we go forward. A moment of silence, and then we'll ask Cheech to give us a disclaimer and Melba to give us a statement of purpose. All right, that's to all of our fallen soldiers and even those in the military and even our loved ones. That could pertain to everyone. But this time we're going to ask that Cheech will give us our disclaimer and Mel will give us our statement of purpose.
Yes, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Before we get started, we wanted to go over a couple of things. First, we want to let you know that the comments made by members of Roll Call are the opinions of each individual. They are not intended to be any type of legal advice, recommendation, or suggestion for everyone out there. If you need that, please contact your local attorney or police department. Remember that the laws change from village to village, state to state. So check with your local department. Also, once in a while, in order to spark our conversations, we display some graphic videos and photographs. Some of them can be graphic in nature. It's not intended to offend anybody. Like we said, it's used to spark our conversations. Before we display one, a member of the panel will let you know. Also, we get these videos from social media like Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, all that. So it is not the property of Roll Call. Anybody out there has access to it. And finally, we want to let you know that the language used by members of Roll Call is very spontaneous. Everybody here speaks from the heart, so it is uncensored. It's not intended to offend anybody, so please do not take offense to it. You will see that we do not disagree from time to time. I mean, we do not agree from time to time on some issues, but we never take it personal and we never take offense to it. So we hope that you do not also. Thank you. If you have any questions or comments, please put them on the chat and someone will try to answer them or get to you. And that's it. Melba?
Hi, good afternoon. So you guys know we are Roll Call, black, white, and blue for better relations, and we have 4 basic tenets. We are pro-law enforcement. We are anti-racism. We believe in equitable policing, and most importantly, we do believe that Black Lives Matter. That's it. Let's go.
All right. All right. Thank you, Cheech. Cheech, you're getting really good at that. Um, and I like the way you use your words. You're doing good at that, Melba. You know that's yours anyway. So, well, listen, thank you guys for joining us. I really do appreciate it. We have a few people we want to pray for. We welcome back JT. JT knows that JT and his wife knows that we've been praying for the both of them. Cheech, we've been praying for you. Melba, you know we're praying for you. Melba, Melba Blocker's on the screen today. Go ahead, Melba Blocker.
God is good.
And then AC and Jeanette, Dave and his wife, and of course Isabel. I know one of the shows we weren't here, and Isabel was in the hospital, and Rich was taking care of her, so it's always good. And I said before you guys even came on the air, came before we went on the air. I'm sorry. I was saying to AC and D that some names I don't call, but I'm praying for everyone on this panel. But certain names I call on purpose for specific prayer. All right. Then I want to just say I hate to give myself a pat on the back or kudos, but yesterday my wife and I celebrated 37 years of marriage. So it was our 37th wedding anniversary on yesterday. And then on today, Tyrone Green, who's not with us, is celebrating his birthday today. That's probably why he's not with us, because he's still celebrating. I'm still celebrating. But that's fine. That's fine. And then on Saturday, Jamel and Sharon will be celebrating their wedding anniversary. They're up in the 40s, y'all. So I don't know what number, like 46, somewhere around there. 'Cause I think it was 45 or 40 something before. When we were together, it was 40 something. It's up in the 40s. So that's longevity. That's longevity. So we're praying for the both of them as well. Today, we're gonna have Derek's gonna lead us in our conversation. Jerry, you have something to say? I saw a finger. I saw a finger.
That was all towards Derek.
Oh, okay. All right. So, and cause I'm looking at the whole screen, so I can see it. You know, I'm looking at everything. So, but Derek's gonna lead us in our conversation. Seems like Derek's getting pretty comfortable with this. But it's yours, Derek.
All right. Welcome, everyone. And it's funny because I actually had written down the numbers 37 and 65. And 37 was the number of years that Pastor Reverend Dr. Donald Butler and Lady Sylvia Butler have been married. And 65 is the number of years Mr. Tyrone Green has been in existence with us, or before us. And June 5th, which is today, Tyrone's birthday, just also happens to be my dog's birthday, who's 8 years old. So my dog and Tyrone share a birthday. But
8 times 7 though.
Right? There you go. Yeah. So yeah, that's that. And looking forward to today's show. I'm sorry I missed last week's. But Mr. D, if you could lead us with a video, that would be outstanding.
Okay, our first video is going to take us to Colorado. We had earlier this week, we had a gentleman have a makeshift flamethrower. Let's take a look.
This morning, we're learning that an attacker threw cocktails at a group of peaceful marchers walking to raise awareness for the October 7th Israeli hostages yesterday in Boulder, Colorado. At least 8 people ranging in age from 52 to 88 were injured, with one person's injuries considered to be serious.
Yeah, officers arrested the suspect at the scene. The FBI is now assisting police in investigating what it calls a targeted act of violence. Naomi Ruckham has more this morning.
There's a male with a blowtorch setting people on fire.
A shocking attack in downtown Boulder. Witnesses say this man, identified by the FBI as 45-year-old Mohammed Sabri Suleiman, used a makeshift flamethrower and threw Molotov cocktails, burning people who were marching to support the Israeli hostages held in Gaza.
I heard a big boom and people yelling and screaming.
Tourist Alex Osante says the attack happened while he was having lunch at a nearby restaurant.
One person caught on fire from head to toe.
Osante says he gave bottles of water to people who rushed in to help the victims. Witnesses and authorities say the suspect was heard yelling phrases including "Free Palestine" before he was taken into custody at the scene.
It is clear that this is a targeted act of violence, and the FBI is investigating this as an act of terrorism.
A U.S. official confirms to CBS News that the suspect is an Egyptian national who overstayed his visa after entering the U.S. in August of 2022. He has recently lived in Colorado Springs, and the FBI says it is also conducting operations in El Paso County.
The fact that this is happening to Jews in my local community makes me scared.
Leaders of Boulder's Jewish community released a statement Sunday saying, when events like this enter our own community, we are shaken. Our hope is that we come together for one another.
Now, police say the suspect was treated for minor injuries at a hospital after he was taken into custody. Law enforcement sources say investigators are delving into the suspect's background and social media posts as they try to determine what inspired him to commit the act and if he acted alone.
All right, does anyone have any comments on that? No? All right.
Yeah, well,
yes. Okay.
Nothing besides the fact that 45 years old, that's it. The guy, he looked a whole lot older than that. But we're living in times where people are doing some dangerous things, though. That's for sure. You better be very, very careful out there when you're out there with family and where you think there's no danger, then danger all of a sudden pops up. So just be very careful out there.
Absolutely. D?
All right, really quick. Yeah, Derek, it takes me a second to get that hand up after the video, so that's why it takes me sort of like a knee jerk. A couple things I want to say about this, because this story developed a little bit this week. I wish Jim was here because I'd like to hear his take on it, but he's not here today. Jim, if you're here, pop in somewhere. I want to hear what you got to say about this. This gentleman stayed over his visa. Apparently, his family is now in ICE custody. They're all here illegally. From the news report and from what I heard all week, they said he was from Egypt. Now, Taco, 47 Taco, said he was now going to spring into action and he was going to make sure this could never happen again. So he restricted travel or terminated travel from 12 countries. Egypt ain't one of them. It's amazing. Something like this could happen where you could have a knee-jerk reaction and we could do something about it. And this guy just decides to do that. I looked at all the 12 countries or 12 regions that he limited people coming from, and there's not an E, there's not Egypt on there. Just makes me wonder why. What relationships do we have that he couldn't put them on the list? But then he should have left everybody off the list. That's all I got.
Next up, we have Mark.
Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. I just kind of really wanted to touch on what Donald said more than the video itself. When we're out in public, we really have to change our perspective as far as safety. I had a video that I couldn't share. It was way too graphic, but in I believe it was China, there was a guy who was on new thing called China Ice and ketamine. And this guy was so whacked out, and he blasted about had to be about 10 or 11 people crossing the street, and he had to be doing about looked like 70, 80 miles an hour. I mean, just blasted them. And as we're seeing now, even with terrorism, that was just drug use. But as we're seeing now with terrorism, vehicles are sometimes the choice of weapon. So a lot of times we're out here, we with our family, we're walking in the street, and we may not have our heads on a swivel when it comes to regular traffic, but it's something we really need to do. We, for our own safety, our family's safety, and the safety of others. Vehicles are being used as weapons. As Donald said, even, terrorists using Molotov cocktails and stuff like that. We really have to change our perspective when we're looking for safety for our family and stuff. How's it?
All right. And Jerry, you had your hand up and you took it down. Is there something you wanted to say?
The thing that I find interesting or peculiar, whatever, the fact that he had an associate that helped and sent all of this mess across country to him so that he could actually create this explosion. I mean, because there was a guy who actually shipped. How did they ship this stuff without anybody noticing the chemicals that were actually utilized? And also, countries that he's put this ban on are primarily countries of Black and brown people. I mean, and like you said, Egypt wasn't even on the list, but come on now, Haiti, come on now, Cuba, even though Cuba's limited, but is he being like so transparent? He's so ridiculously obvious and where he's really coming from. He's a mess. That was it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And Rich?
Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. The sad commentary involved in this is actually these incidents. Whatever side you are on, if you're left or right, or liberal or MAGA or Jewish, or Palestinian, people are being attacked because of these different issues, and that's the sad part about it. Innocent people are being hurt and losing their lives. This is the first thought you should have from seeing something like this, and we got to put this down. I saw a rant video from Michael Rappaport. If you know who that is, the actor. He's a real staunch Knick fan, and he was saying how with George Floyd, Black Lives Matter. He made his profile black, and he was down for this, and went to different Black Lives Matter events, and he was pro that. And he goes, I noticed for my people, he's talking about Jewish people, nobody's coming for us to help. Nobody's going out of their way. And I mean, I don't know how true that is, but that's how he felt. So he really went off on the fact he's always been there for other issues and other people, and nobody's there for the Jews. It's just a sad commentary overall. And what Taco's doing, Felon 47, is not helping. But you notice anything he does is transactional. So behind these different countries that he's banned, and then he has a group of countries that's limited ban, that means he's trying to negotiate some kind of grift by putting pressure on these countries so they can negotiate deals with him, whether it's a personal deal for his family. There's always a grift behind everything he does. The tariffs that he's doing, he's gaming the system. He's gaming the market so him and his rich friends can make money. And it's pretty obvious. He's doing it in plain view. These tariffs don't help anybody. It's not helping us. We're not gaining from it. But his family is, and his rich buddies are. So I think it's overall sad commentary. I hate that people get hurt that are innocent, have nothing to do with what's really going on. So that's my thoughts. Thanks.
All right. Well said, Rich and Mr. Cheech.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that, when people say that they're doing this to bring attention to to their cause. Violence is not the answer. That upsets me. That people would use violence to try to bring attention to an issue. Just no, that should not be done. And my other point, me personally, thank God it wasn't a Latino that was undocumented.
Right, right. Well said. And the part that you said about people using violence to bring attention to a cause, I personally don't understand how it helps the cause for you to try to kill or disfigure people, innocent people that have nothing to do with anything. And I think in this country now, violence has been fostered by the rhetoric that's perpetuated by one of the parties. And I don't necessarily need to say which party it is, we all know. Also, there were 12 countries that were banned by Trump, and there were 7 that were restricted. So 19 countries affected in total after this guy did this, and none of them are Egypt. So that's really interesting. And as far as Michael Rappaport saying no one's really there for the Jews, historically, the American government has been there for the Jews. Historically, anything that happens in or around a Jewish neighborhood or in or anywhere near a mosque or to a Jewish person, it's considered a hate crime. But a black person could get stomped out, set on fire, and be called an N-word all at the same time, and they find a reason for it not to be a hate crime. So the government has had a direct hand in helping the Jews. That's just my opinion. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I do agree with you, Derek, with what you just stated. And but I just want to just go to a comment, not a comment, just want to recognize Eric Jones. Today he's with us. He's always with us. He's from Hempstead High School, with us as well. Today is his birthday, so I just want to recognize the date.
Happy birthday, Eric. Right.
Yeah. Okay, that's I just wanted to get that up in there because he's always on there, and he just said his day's his birthday, so I want to make sure we recognize that. Let me recognize some of the other people that's on here. Let me see. We got Beverly Wells, Melissa Sutherland Moss, 4 other people I really can't see. My wife, Sylvia Butler, Donald Coleman, Karen Caffey, let's see, Kelly Kennan, okay, Eric Jones, I'm not calling out the regular name, Eva, and Richard Bowden just joined us. Richard just said people have used violence for a cause for centuries. It's not new. Our country was founded using violence for a cause. All right. Just like we took the land from the Native Americans.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, we ain't asked, can we have it? They said, okay, you can have it. No, we took it.
Right. You take land from the Native Americans, you get a holiday named after you for doing it. Right? Thanksgiving. Columbus comes over here, kills a bunch of Americans, he gets a holiday named after. If you are a white person and you do enough damage to the black race, you get a holiday. That's really something to look at. Will.
And someone already made a comment about violence being woven in the fabric of this country, and there's multiple examples going all the way back to the very beginning. But I saw something interesting that someone sent to me, or I saw it on a reel, and they were asking me to research or check. Show me one country indigenous to people of color that has ever left their land for the purpose of colonizing. And yeah, see, I before I even get it all out, everybody's head is shaking no. Every country that has been colonized, invaded, the people that are native there have been stepped on, have been objectified, have been denied every person or every group that has always done that are the people of European persuasion.
And I'd like to add to that, Will, that even when the Moors went into Europe
Grace.
and conquered, it was for the betterment of Europe and not to their detriment. That
Right.
when the Moors moved into Europe and they conquered and they took over for those hundreds of years. So
Well, not just betterment, as betterment was as they perceived it or we perceive it. They didn't take over their culture.
they didn't take over they didn't remove their culture for them, and they did not
Language or anything like
subjugate
that.
them in the same manner that European colonists have done across the world.
When you think about listening to other countries and they talk about, particularly from a business acumen, they talk about Western civilization. They're referring to us. The concept of capitalism spread. We were the pebble that spread elsewhere. But even in other countries, they have a lot more respect for one another within their own culture and in their own country than we show here. But they will act in those circles when they're dealing with us because they know how we roll.
Well said. Well said. We can actually see what we're talking about right now. Obviously, Putin is trying to take over as much of Ukraine as he can. And it's happening right before our eyes. It's been going on for, I believe it's 2.5 years now, or maybe a little over 3 years. And the president of the United States is talking about taking the Panama Canal and Greenland. And and he actually went so far with Greenland as to say, and it may have to be done by force. So that's those used to be the times we were living in, but those are the times we're still in. It's the thought process of the people that are supposed to be the ordinance, and that's just the way it is. Yeah. Anyone else? Yes, AC.
You missed Panama Canal and Greenland. Those are two major traffic routes for
shipping. For shipping, yes. Yeah. Anyone else? Yes.
Yeah. Real quick.
Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, Rich. No, go ahead, Rich. Go ahead.
No, I'm just back to everything that Trump does is just a grift. He wants to control those shipping lanes. It's all about money. And it's just, we've never had a president try to enrich themselves through the office. And this has been the ultimate. And it's just horrible because we can't stop it, because Republicans have no spine. We have to wait on the courts to try to regulate the unconstitutional, illegal stuff that this person in the Oval Office is doing. And and today he met with the Chancellor of Germany, and he said he spoke to Putin on the phone for 2 hours, and he said, you know what, it's like two kids fighting in the schoolyard. You let them fight for a while, and then you break them up. That's what he's relegating this down to: kids in a schoolyard where so many people have lost their lives in their homes, and it's just so callous, and it's such a throwaway line for him. Two kids fighting in a schoolyard. This is who's leading our country.
Right.
I mean, if you can't see how horrible this person is, shouldn't be in office, shouldn't be leading. We got to have a new rule. If you're a convicted felon, you can't go for president. I mean, that just would have stopped it. We'd had a rule already. You think it'd be on the books, but I think our founding fathers never thought that the checks and balances wouldn't work. That if you have a criminal president who is unfit and destroying our country, he would be removed through impeachment. But the impeachment process didn't work twice. And all I'm hoping for is when the midterms come, I finally say, if the Democrats could take over the House and Senate, if that miracle happens, he'll be impeached again.
Rich, call it what it is, a felonious president.
Right.
Felonious,
well,
not just criminal.
Just say not more than 20 felonies.
Hey,
For our
Rich.
listeners, if I go
Go
ahead,
ahead, Will. No,
I
no.
was going to
Go
say
ahead. Go ahead.
for our listeners that are out there, um, maybe it seems like we can show a video of a different circumstance, but we seem to find ourselves circling back. And I think all of us would agree there's no such thing as a discussion about what's going on in this world today being in a box, being compartmentalized. Everything is interconnected. If you don't think that what's going on in this country has an impact on what happened in Colorado, what happens in so many other places, you've got your head in the sand somewhere. So, for our listeners that are out there that feel like we might be, going down the same rabbit hole, well, unfortunately, the minds are in the same place every time. And it's a matter of connecting the dots as to why this applies to that. So, yes, we're going to keep going down that because that's a part of explaining and us having a conversation that should have long been had a long time ago.
You done for me again, Melba? Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. But I just want to point out that our perilous edge on fascism is, yes, the United States is probably spearheading it, but it is also a phenomenon that seems to be um, happening worldwide also. Um, that it seems to be a power play. We seem to be the bottom of the barrel. Like no one is trying to mess with us because of our current commander in chief. But there are also power plays or plays for power going around worldwide. I know Kyle has traveled extensively, and I have a girlfriend who is currently in Barcelona. And in part of her travel documents, she was required to provide confirmation of her hotel. Now, when she goes to Spain, she stays with friends. And in order for them to stay at a private home, they had to go to their local police station to get a letter to get permission for her to stay with them in their home. Now,
Wow.
the grift is that they are made up of appointments. Apparently, certain uh an Arab demographic has pretty much booked up all the appointments, and you have to bargain with them. They've set themselves as a middleman. You have to bargain with them in order to take their appointment so you can get a letter to have a guest stay at your home.
And
It's
and I'm assuming bargaining with them is bargaining with cash. Yes. Wow. Incredible.
Real quick, I wanted to say, Richard Bowden says the Mongols aren't European. They took over better than anyone. They ran amok in Eastern Europe. I just wanted to put that out there because he said it, and some of us are not paying attention to that because we're not on Facebook Live. I wanted to also, what else was there? I was gonna say, I was trying to keep up with these comments over here. Um, all right. Oh, I know what I was going to say. To those who are listening as well, you have some very intelligent people on this panel that really know a wide range of have a wide range of information, and they're not just talking off the cuff. They're talking about what they know. I'm talking about those on this panel right here. And I want you to just to pay attention to what they're saying, especially to if you look at Will Quick's name in his background, it says Lieutenant Quickway. I don't know what's under the way, but it's a Lieutenant Quick Way. We have a lot of supervisors on here, heads of departments that are on here, that or previous heads of departments, and at least one attorney, oh, that's on here. So we're trying to stay in line with the information that we're given. Okay, it's back in hands, Derek. Oh,
All right,
JT
all
got
right.
some. JT got
JT, yes,
something.
sir.
I'm not one of the ones you just talked about. All right.
How you know? How you
I
know?
know. Because how many times you got to get impeached to be removed from the presidency?
You know,
Somebody got to know.
only once if they vote to impeach you once it's done.
No, once you convict you, you gotta be convicted.
You gotta
Right.
be you have to be impeached and then convicted.
Right.
What if you convicted and then impeached?
No,
it's not that. That's not the way it works.
No.
You gotta be impeached first, then
I
convicted.
told you I wasn't one of them. I didn't go to college. I went by a lot of college, but I went in. So I'm just trying to find out because Trump.
Harvard has classes.
Online.
No, but
I think they are doing civics classes online now.
Free class at Harvard.
But
free.
But JT's question was not really way out there because he was convicted first.
Right.
Not impeached.
Yeah.
He was convicted personally, but not as a president.
Yeah.
But he wasn't convicted of the charges.
I know where JT was going with that.
Right. You have to be convicted of the charges that you were impeached for, JT.
Right.
So the impeachment comes first, then there's a hearing or a trial, and then you have to be convicted. And then you get
How
removed.
could a convicted felon be eligible to run for the presidency of our United States?
Because there's no laws against it.
Because it ain't never happened before.
And our founding fathers probably never thought that we would even put someone up in there, especially if you could start. Wait a minute, Jerry. Especially if you can argue the fact that when he was saying that Obama wasn't even born in the United States. I mean, here we go talking about birth, and that he trying to eliminate him from the office of president because he said he wasn't even born in the United States. But yet still, you were born in the United States and have 34 felonies. What's the comparison?
But you're still eligible to run for the presidency and sit in the office.
He's on work release. He got the monitor and everything. Never look at his ankle. Look at his name. He got a monitor. You know what the fuck you let a motherfucker 34 felony? If I locked up somebody within the last 30 years, he'd still be in prison for 34 felonies. 34, not 10. He wasn't a person of interest. He was the motherfucker they arrested. With the trial, got a trial by his peers. Not black people, his peers. They convicted him. Ooh.
Yeah.
You got Mark there, Derek.
Okay. Mark, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, we've all learned, though, those rules and regulations may or may not apply depending on your nationality.
That's true.
And bank account.
One pause. The birthday boy just joined us. He didn't go on the camera yet, but the birthday boy is joined us. We just want to make sure that we say happy birthday to Mr. Tyrone Green.
Tyrone, happy birthday, Tyrone.
Happy birthday, Ty.
Thank you.
Hopefully he can hear us. He did pop on for 1 second and then he disappeared again. But
okay, maybe doing something then. He may be doing something.
He's probably drunk. No. He's lucky.
There he is.
Hey, Tyrone, happy
There
birthday.
he goes.
I'm driving, guys. Sorry about that. Hey, everybody.
What's up?
All right.
Hey, happy birthday, Ty.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
You
Thanks,
even got
guys.
gray hair now. You all. Damn.
I've been great forever. Right.
Hey, JT, if you ever made any of the trips to Virginia, you'd have seen everybody's hair or lack thereof.
Yeah, exactly.
You gotta come join us.
Oh.
Yes. Dee, do you have another video for us, sir?
I certainly do.
All right.
I know some of our members, I'm not going to call anybody out, have relocated to North Carolina. So this next video takes us to North Carolina where there was a trooper involved in a chase. And there was a really, really bad accident and he tried to cover it up.
Oh, yeah.
Loss of life. The gentleman's name and shout out goes to his parents, Tyrone Mason and his family. Our prayers are with you. Let's check it out.
Friends, family, and lawyers gathered in Raleigh to call for justice. It's been a year since 31-year-old Tyrone Mason died in a single-car crash.
This rally comes days after police dash cam and body cam video was released showing a state trooper being coached to lie about what happened seconds before he pulled up to that deadly crash involving Tyrone Mason on Capitol Boulevard in Raleigh. Eyewitness News was there today as the group gathered outside the Wake County Courthouse right across the street from our downtown Raleigh newsroom. They're now calling for more to be done and for the two troopers at the center of that investigation to be removed from the job. Elena Athens is live now in Raleigh, and the Wake County DA is standing by her decision not to press charges. You followed up with her this afternoon about that.
I did indeed, and also the attorneys who are representing Tyrone Mason's family call Highway Patrol, quote, a cesspool of corruption. So those lawyers are continuing to call the firings of the troopers, and they also want the district attorney to reconsider filing charges.
Tape does not lie, and that he is a liar.
Tyrone Mason's family and their attorneys say they believe the two Highway Patrol troopers involved in this investigation don't deserve to wear a badge or collect taxpayer money. This body cam video is from October of 2024. It shows Trooper Garrett Bercario first trying to pull over Mason with his blue lights on. He followed him briefly and then stopped right before Mason's car crashes. His supervisor, Sergeant Matthew Morrison, allegedly instructed Garrett to lie to Raleigh police about what led up to the deadly crash.
I wouldn't mention anything to them about you tried to stop him.
No, I won't.
Just say, hey man, I drove up on this.
Yeah.
And leave it at that.
I mean, it's rare that you get to witness a conspiracy.
You're involved in a whole crime, sir.
That part.
Like you literally ran my baby down.
The troopers involved have been on administrative leave since January. Highway Patrol launched an internal investigation. The agency would not comment today on where that review stands.
The conduct of these officers is despicable.
Wake County District Attorney Lauren Freeman says the troopers' actions that day do not reflect what every citizen should expect of law enforcement, but she is standing by the decision not to file charges against them. Freeman says there is not enough evidence to support a conviction, and she is encouraging the family to read her report on the case.
One of the things that was disappointing to me today is that I have told those attorneys for Mrs. Mason that they can have access to that report, go to the SBI, review it in detail. They've not done that yet. Instead, they're continuing to kind of spread or, push this misinformation about what happened that evening.
So we also learned that lawyers plan on adding the Raleigh Police Department to a lawsuit that was filed last week. The Raleigh Police Department has said of this incident, in part, we are reviewing our crash investigation procedures, specifically how we interact with families of the victims. We're live in Raleigh tonight. Elena Athens, ABC 11 Eyewitness News.
And we learned today that they're also calling on the state attorney general to launch an investigation into what happened. So we'll wait to get a response from the AG's office on that.
Elena, thank you.
All right, do we have anyone that wants to comment on that? Yes, Will. You're muted, Will.
North Carolina's home for me, and I've been following this case as a prior law enforcement officer and a North Carolina resident probably since the very beginning. What the DA did in that scenario makes an awful lot of sense because she delivered a lot more justice by calling out those officers for being unreliable witnesses and in effect basically saying they are liars. She has dismissed over 200 cases between those two highway patrolmen. And all of us either from law enforcement background or familiar with it know that once your credibility to testify as a law enforcement officer is done, then you need to be done. The highway patrol in this whole situation probably could have been avoided. The minute that the DA's office came out with that, the highway patrol should have cut them loose. Period. Point blank, period. But under the circumstances, the only charges I think the DA's office might have been able to bring against them might have been maybe dereliction of duty on the basis of that the highway patrolman didn't even go over to check on this young man to see if there was a chance for life-saving efforts because he didn't do that. But I understand her point about trying to or deferring not to take out criminal charges and in effect delivering immediate and decisive justice, that all the Highway Patrol has to do is say, you guys are dismissed, because that footage is out there and it's not going anywhere. So no matter where they show up, that's going to be assigned to them. But the problem is the Highway Patrol has not dismissed these officers. So now every day they stay on, they got to own this. Now, I'd be interested to know if the attorneys for the surviving family have actually looked at that report that the DA said was available to them. Because like the lady said, they ran her son down. No, that's not what happened, you all. He initiated a stop that turned into a pursuit. He backed off of it, and the car wrecked somewhere down the road. That's not uncommon to have happen, someone fleeing from law enforcement. Sometimes it's in the midst of the pursuit. Sometimes it's them, just continuing running because they want to get away. But at the end of the day, the gentleman driving that car made the choice not to stop. And that was the direct causation of his collision and, unfortunately, his loss of life.
All right. Well said, Will. Mr. D?
Well, I want to, I'm glad you said that, Will, because that's the same thing I was thinking of. But I want to take it a step further. There was no reason to lie. I've been a state trooper for 32 years. I've been in law enforcement for 41 coming up on. There's no reason to lie. You're doing your job. You're activating your lights. You're trying to stop someone speeding. There's an unfortunate loss of life, and we don't want anybody to die. Don't think that's what I'm saying. But there's no reason at all to lie. It makes me think maybe there's something else going on that we don't know about that would cause this trooper to feel like, and the sergeant to feel like they had to lie. The second thing I want to say in law enforcement, and many of you in the room will know, we can, you make mistakes. Our job is riddled with mistakes and accidents and things that you do when you take on this profession that we do. That's just the nature of the beast. It's all wrong from beginning to end. Wrong things are going to happen. I say that to say, in our culture, in our police culture, I remember you could get caught. Anything else could happen. You could have an accident, you could crash a car, you could your gun could go off accidentally. But the culture is you can't lie about it. You could get caught doing anything. I know people where there was loss of life and that person didn't take a hit at all. But you get caught lying once. We talked about it. Every case you're involved with, every case me and Will are involved with, if I get caught lying, all his cases go. If JT's involved, all his cases go. Don involved. You don't understand how far this goes. So we knew as a culture, I can't get caught lying. I can't lie. I got to tell the truth. I got to be forthcoming because we know bad things are going to happen. We know loss of life is going to happen. So it makes me think there's something bigger because I watched the video a bunch of times and I tried to look on the internet for more stuff. There's no reason to lie. That's a character flaw. And Will, you're absolutely right. Both of them should be off the job, shoveling bricks somewhere.
Yeah. And Will, and Mark, you hold on a second. Well, Mark, you had your hand up, but you put it down. Did you want to say something?
Yeah, basically, I just wanted, D stole my thunder. But I agree with him that, there was no need to lie. And the weird thing about it, if you look at it in perspective, it's the sergeant who told him to lie. So the sergeant cost him his career as well as his own career.
Yep. All right, Will.
And I understand what D is saying before I listen, because I understand words have meaning. When we say there's no reason to lie, that is not intended for people to construe that there are circumstances that we choose to lie because we can justify it. That's not the case. Lying is not something that we stand for as individuals on this panel or as a profession. So it's not a matter of no reason to lie. Again, D, I understand what you mean by that, but because I know how words people hear what they want to hear, I like to make it clear for our listeners. We are not advocating for dishonesty depending on the circumstances. We are speaking in the context of this situation. As far as we can tell, the officer's actions, presuming that he had reason to stop this guy, was lawful. The fact that he made the choice to back off of it actually is a responsible choice, because once you realize that the nature of the violation doesn't match up with the threat of continuing with the chase, then that's what we're called to do, back off of it. So when this gentleman has this accident and the officer calls in to his supervisor, I could actually kind of understand that call, because the officer probably knows this is going to be bad, maybe even a fatality. That supervisor, like you said, Mark, that supervisor gave him some really, really bad advice. And the only reason from the outside looking in that I can see he would do that would be to avoid any deeper look, or try to avoid a deeper look in, well, why were you stopping this guy? Because it resulted in his death. And the fact that since you were chasing him, it should be upon the trooper or the Highway Patrol agency to investigate the wreck. So it's just work and circumstances that they're trying to distance themselves from. So for those that are listening, again, when we say that there's no reason to lie, that is not an indication of us justifying that there is ever a reason to lie. It's just under those circumstances, it boggles our mind as much as it does yours. If all you're trying to do is get out of a little bit of paperwork, that just doesn't make sense.
Well said, Will. And Kyle.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense at all. I agree with you there. And it just it begs a lot of questions to me. And there seems to be a lot more to this than for him to give that directive just to lie so brazenly. But I the reason I put my hand up was because you first of all, these two officers are still on the job, the officer and the I don't know, sergeant. They still have their careers, and I don't understand how dismissing all the cases that they have been involved with somehow is sufficient punishment for what some might say is the wrongful death of this motorist, because we don't know why he was in pursuit. They didn't say that. You're assuming or presuming was some lawful reason, but we don't know. It couldn't have been that much, because he was backing off the pursuit. So it had to be something minor. And once you pursue and the person keeps going, I mean, there is a case for wrongful death. I'm sure they'll bring that case. That's why the attorneys are there. But I don't understand the dismissal. I get why the prosecutor would dismiss the cases, but that shouldn't be sort of seen as any kind of punishment for the officers. What were those cases about? Were the victims behind those cases that now they can't get justice because these two guys happen to be involved in some way? So you have, further damaged left the public unprotected, because these officers turn up to be the officers that respond to their cases happen to be liars. So there's just so many layers to this to me. And unless the department lets these two go, there really hasn't been any punishment. And I just don't, it doesn't make any sense to me why the DA wouldn't go after them, despite the fact they filed a false report. If they're reporting it the way that the sergeant directed him to, that's false. So if nothing else, you have that, and conduct unbecoming because of the lie. I mean, there's other, I gather, administrative things that they could do, or charges that they might seek. It doesn't make sense that the DA just her remedy is to dismiss cases. I get that she would, because those cases probably are not you can't prosecute them. But, that you further, leave the public short, because those cases that those other people were involved with can never seek justice. They can't, have their day in court, so to speak. So it's just very confusing to me, and it just doesn't make any sense.
Excellent. Well said, Kyle and JT.
Yeah, Kyle, this is just for you. If a DA goes back and dismisses cases, suppose the case was a slam dunk, confession, murder weapon on the scene, everything. They still got to dismiss that case and release that guy from prison?
It sounds like that's what they did. And if there was a victim on the other end of that case, that victim is left without any form of justice on their case, because maybe the arresting officer or an assisting officer or someone who found a piece of evidence was one of these two guys. And so she just is just dismissing the cases. I would want to know what cases she was dismissing, what their involvement was. I mean, if I was an attorney for the families of anybody, of any victim in those cases, I'd be after the office, for that. So there's a lot of layers here. And again, it doesn't it sounds like that's what she would do, JT, that she was just going to dismiss all these cases, but that doesn't seem like a sufficient remedy to me.
Okay.
Yeah, and the first thing I thought when I heard the sergeant telling the officer to lie or tell him to omit information was, the first thing I thought was he probably really didn't have a reason to stop him in the first place. It's very obvious that sometimes, as a African American male, you drive around, you get pulled over for nothing. I don't know what kind of car this guy was driving, but I know there are at least 4 of us on this panel that had sports cars or fast cars, and a couple of us that had motorcycles. And when you drive those things or operate those vehicles, you tend to get pulled over for nothing. Once the guy took off, if he didn't have a reason to stop him, he doesn't really have probable cause to pursue him. And maybe that was the reason why. And I'm just speculating. I don't know for sure, but that could have been it. But overall, police chases are dangerous. And it's one of the things that doesn't really get discussed enough, because we get sad and it's published when officers die in the line of duty. Usually when it's published, officers get shot. More officers die in car accidents and in chases or car accidents than getting shot. Now, fortunately for the officer, he didn't get hurt, but the other guy got killed. When they lied, they didn't just lie verbally, because if there's a death resulting from a vehicle accident, there has to be a written report. So they lied in the report. They lied in a legal document. And if the officer wrote the legal document, the supervisor or a supervisor had to sign off on the document. So even if it wasn't the supervisor that told him to lie, someone else signed off on it, there could be a few heads that should roll. And dismissing the cases is a double-edged sword. And both edges are dull, because one, if you dismiss the cases, but you leave the officers in the same positions that they're in, they can commit the same acts that they did in the first place. That's one. And two is, like Kyle said, the people that actually were harmed by the original crimes and criminals, they're left without justice because these people have been released. It kind of goes back to one of the things that I've talked about before. Policing ourselves, or departments policing themselves, is not a viable solution to get bad police officers off the department or in jail wherever they should be. It's not a viable solution. It's people that know each other investigating each other, and it's like a parent investigating their own child. And you're not going to send your own child to jail if you have a choice in the matter. So often that's what happens. Yep. And Will.
Wait. You got AC.
AC.
You got
Okay.
AC.
My
Yeah.
point was made already. My point was already
I'm about
made.
to say we skipped AC a few times already, so I want to make
Okay.
sure we
No,
got it.
he put in the chat that he was good. So, yeah. Okay, Will.
Oh, I'm sorry to keep circling back on this. But Kyle, I completely understand your points about the DA's office. But when I look at from the standpoint of North Carolina statutes and what potentially these officers could have been charged, dereliction of duty, lying, those are probably going to be more applicable in the administrative process than they would be in the criminal process, because what happens is we are a conservative state. So people that might get on and the Highway Patrol is the bell cow of law enforcement in this state, as it may be for a lot of other states. If she actually pressed charges on this officer and or his supervisor for their actions related to this, are they going to be able to show evidence that it was direct causality for this gentleman's death? Probably not. Probably not. And here's the problem. If she presents a case and these officers get off, which is not far-fetched, now they become professional martyrs, because if they get off, that means where's your justification for trying to terminate them? Because that's what they're going to hang their hat on. They're like, we went through a level of process, which the criminal process has the highest level of proof. Because we got criminal, we've got civil, we've got administrative. That criminal process has the highest level of proof. And they managed to come out of that unscathed. So again, I understand why the DA's office went the route that she did based upon what laws might be applicable to their actions. Because apparently the medical examiner's office has already released a report that there wasn't anything that anyone could have done to have saved that man's life. Whether the officer looked in on him or not, that man's life was gone. But that, to me, that doesn't excuse the fact they didn't at least check on him. But those are, go ahead, Kyle.
No, I'm not. I'm not saying that there is causation.
Okay.
Right? I'm saying prosecute him for the lie that he told. It's on tape that he's lying.
Right. You're right, but
Right?
most cases,
So
lying like that is usually handled as
independent of the death. You know, if it's a misdemeanor, whatever level of crime it is, bring it. And the civil action will try to connect those dots and causation and try to make it fit, whatever. That's for another court. But she's giving them a pass for lying.
Here's the thing. In North Carolina, it may be the case elsewhere. Lying in that capacity, since you're not under oath and you're not on the stand, it doesn't rise to the level of perjury, which is usually the charge that we associate with lying.
But they must have filled out a report that we've made that point. That reports had to follow, right? So, and now you look at the tape and you realize, okay, this can't be true, what you wrote here. Just prosecute them for what they did.
Well, and we don't even know that because he recanted his original statement. He said later on that he did actually try to initiate, because that's another thing they're going to seize on. That much of the video wasn't played. After he made that initial comment to the Raleigh officer, he dialed it back and said, yeah, I actually did try to stop them. But that part wasn't played. So as far as any report goes, I don't know that he actually put that down and documented report to where he could be charged with filing a false police report. So that's the point that I'm trying to get at. At this point, you can deliver more justice administratively. And the fact that the DA has pushed over the first domino by saying that these gentlemen are no longer credible, then if you're not credible wearing a badge and a gun, then you need to be out of a job. And the Highway Patrol could have put an end to this already by saying, well, the DA says they aren't credible, then they can't work for us, they got to go. And now you got them out of a job with cause. You're not paying them any taxpayer dollars. In North Carolina, when you are terminated with cause, you lose out on benefits as well. Now, to the point that someone made about the justice for the other cases that have been dismissed, Yeah, I feel that too. But again, once someone in this situation has proven to be unreliable and the information, and this is going to sound bad, but thankfully they hire patrolmen and not county or municipal officers, because most of what they do is either traffic investigation or traffic enforcement. So they don't typically get involved with the day-to-day stuff that gets a little more gray with our interaction with the public.
Excellent, Will. Great opinions. Next up, we have Rich.
Yeah. I know the point that Dee was making about, these officers didn't have to lie. I think that kind of turned a little bit, is that this is so of an egregious incident that there was no need to lie, meaning that, you know, the spotlight is this is a situation where it didn't have to lie, because lying is bad and we don't lie, but there's been cases where officers have lied or made up a story or a reason to stop, or when they ask the question, what was your probable cause? And they're like, a lot of times you have people officers who racial profile people, and that's their reason for conducting a stop. And then after the fact, when it goes too far, they have to figure out something legal, there's some vehicle violation or something legal for the stop, vice than racial profiling. And I think that's probably the biggest thing that's happened for law enforcement, where the racial profiling goes down. They know they can't do that, and they have to make up something for the stop. And the vehicle code in most states are so there's so many things you could stop a car for, because the vehicle code is so intense. With so many different things, like something hanging from your rearview mirror, or some kind of minor equipment violation, or even tinted windows. So usually after the fact, sometimes you've heard where they've come up with something for the reason for the stop, when they've done some kind of racial profiling, or they just want to make a stop on a certain individual for whatever reason. So I think that's a highlight point when it comes to initiating stops, is certain reasons for the stop. You now have to legally get a legal issue to validate your stop. And if it goes bad, when it's a death, now that the spotlight is on exactly what happened when. And that's all. I don't know if this is what happened with the officer and the sergeant while they did that, but I don't know.
Excellent. Yes, Don.
Yeah, I'm listening and I can hear where Will's coming from. Will's in North Carolina. A lot of us are in New York, and our rules and our policies are different. And I can see where he's coming from, and obviously he knows what he's talking about, because he went up to the rank of at least the lieutenant. So he actually knows what he's talking about. It's just different from what we would do here in New York compared to what he would do if he was in North Carolina. Then my other point is this: listen, if even with that lie, all they really had to do was probably write up an accident report. No criminal case. It should have been, in the criminal case, should have been against them. But in this case, just probably an accident report. And we all know how basic an accident report can be without you telling a lie, just not putting all the information in. If you just write that, listen, I saw him down the road and he crashed, and leave it there. But not that I was pursuing him or after him or chasing him. We see that later. We see that here. But my point really is this, that and I heard Will say, legally, civilly, and then administratively, and their best option would have been administratively, to discipline them, just to get them off the job. Because there are some comments that talks about, they're still getting paid, they still have their benefits, and like Will said, if you get terminated with cause, you lose all of that as well. So I'm really paying attention to what you guys are saying today. So that's why I said that, because we definitely don't want to mix jurisdictions, because we don't know, like we got Rich over there in California. They did stuff we talked about earlier. sitting people down with cuffs on, all that stuff, that we don't do here, but it wasn't wrong in California, you know. All right, I'm done.
Mark?
Yeah, so there still has to be some commonality from state to state with police departments. I understand what Will's saying as far as handling it administratively, but the sergeant instructed the officer to lie on the report. So at the very least, and let's not forget, okay, you're talking about the difference between New York and North Carolina. Let's not forget, North Carolina is a right to work state. So it's easy for them to let those officers go than it would be in New York. So the fact that it's not, I agree with what Kyle said. It's got to be something a little deeper that they even holding on to these guys. And it's not punishment to the police officers when you dismiss their cases. They've made their overtime. They've made their whatever. The cases are done. So you go back and dismiss all my arrests from when I first got on. Does it impact me? No. Firing me does. Okay. Ruining my credibility does. Okay, which impacts directly my ability to be an officer. So why those two are still on the job, I can't explain. However, I will say this: if you want to give me a scenario where the officer, since he was instructed by the supervisor not to include the truth, maybe you keep him, but he's still going to be a problem child because he's involved in what he's involved in, which was lying. The sergeant, gone, finito, no questions asked. You're telling your officer, no, don't lie on a report. Don't add that. Come on, he's got to go, point blank. So it's got to be something deeper.
And I kind of agree with you. I mean, not kind of. I do agree with you, but I'm just saying we're talking about different jurisdictions. And by dismissing all their cases, I think Kyle said it. But what about the victims? Meaning that if they had a guy locked up for assault, you dismiss his case. Now the victim of the assault has no case. So I just see it. I see it from both ways. I understand some of the stuff, even though I may not agree with it. But we're still talking about different jurisdictions. There's something that went on in North Carolina that in New York that would have been put to bed real fast, but I don't know. I don't know. And what you're saying also more about a right to work state. A right to work state gives them more liberty even to keep a knucklehead around, don't it?
No, it would be easier for them to let them go. In New York.
Oh, I know that, but would it be easier for them to keep them as well? But you're right, though. I know it's like we don't listen. They could just fire you they can get rid of you 1, 2, 3. Right. With us, you have to go through the union and go through the process. But could they keep a person that's even a bad cop? Isn't it easier for them to keep a person compared to what we would do?
Not if they want to keep the police department's integrity.
I'm not talking about that. That's not what I'm saying. Don't go there. I'm just talking about forget the integrity. Forget that they want to keep the police department's credit. I want to keep Will Quick on the job, period. I don't care what they think. Is it easier for them to do that?
Well, one has nothing to do with the other. The right to work state basically talks about your ability to fire someone and not really to keep them. That's something different, and that's the municipality's decision or the chief's decision. But it's not. It's not easier or harder because it's a right to work state. Same thing in New York is the same thing in North Carolina. The right to work state is really about firing, not keeping somebody.
I think it goes a little bit further than just firing. I think that you can keep that person without going through a whole lot of mess as well.
Will, you worked in a right to work state. What do you say on that? It has to do with firing more than keeping somebody. Anybody can keep somebody.
Well, and forgive me if I'm repeating this, but I'm gonna give you a firsthand example. The agency I worked for in Wake County for 5 years of my career, I was an evidence custodian, and there was a bag of weed that was taken off a middle school student. Now, because of the age, that student wouldn't be charged criminally. At most, they might go to teen court. The SRO that took that bag of weed off of them doesn't do good with technology. So she was having problems getting logged in so she could log her evidence. So when I came there, I was on my day off. I asked her, do they typically call for evidence in teen court? I'd never been an SRO. She said, no, they don't. I said, we're going to take a picture of the evidence. We have the ability as law enforcement officers to recognize plain smell, plain sight. And then we're going to go out and destroy it together so it can't be consumed. By the letter of our department policy, I violated the policy. And the chief recommended me for termination. He told me, I can't say that this is true, but he told me he spoke with the DA's office, and the DA's office supposedly told him that because of my actions, I could no longer be credible on the stand. So the DA, according to him, the DA could have charged me, but she didn't. Now, mind you, completely ignored the fact that there was nothing egregious. It was documented, what we did and all that stuff. So, but he handled it administratively. Now, there was some other stuff that led up to this that I have reason to believe actually was the real trigger behind this. And it was just a situation that gave him the ammunition he needed to do what he already wanted to do. But that makes my point with regards to how much more efficiently and quickly and definitively you can deal with a situation like this administratively, rather than if he was trying to push for the DA's office to charge me because I dispose of evidence in a manner inconsistent with department policy.
Wow.
Derek, I have to go back to what I was just saying earlier, because it just seems like if the DA chose not to press charges, then that's keeping a person where charges should have been made. And now you're allowing the department itself to keep a person that's crooked. And that's exactly what they did. They chose not to pursue it, not to push it, not to terminate it, even though they could have fired him without cause. And that's, and I don't know if I'm explaining this correctly, but that's what I'm saying, that it's easier to keep a person with that
right to work
state than it would be in other states.
But what would you have?
I mean, I don't agree with it. I don't agree with it, because you're keeping bad cops. But who can do something about it now? You can't even do anything about it. If the DA's not doing anything about it, the department's not doing anything about it, your only option now is a civil lawsuit. That's it. That's it. That's it, y'all. And so I don't know if I'm explaining it correctly, but that's the only option you have, because if that department says we're done, the DA already said they're done. The department who has the administrative seems like they're saying we're done. Your only option is the mid-level, which is the civil case.
The DA.
That's all I was saying.
Yeah, the department is basically deferring to the DA, basically.
And the DA gave it to the department.
Right.
What would they charge him with? If the DA is not going to charge him, what would the department have to fire him for?
The department don't even need charges.
Right. It's departmental
That's the first
procedure.
They do need something to fire you for.
They need a violation of departmental procedure. That's all. Violation of departmental procedure. You don't need a crime to fire a police officer.
If it's violation of department procedure.
Right. It is. He told us that at the beginning it was.
The sergeant told him to lie.
Right.
That's
Right.
what Mark is saying. The sergeant definitely need to be going.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know, my whole point was that they just made it so much easier to keep a bad cop. That's all. That's my real point. That's my real point.
And Cheech has been waiting in the wings here for a minute. Cheech, go ahead. Give us what you have, sir.
Yeah, I agree with Donald, and I understand where you're coming from, Donald. That it works both ways, right to work state. The DA didn't press charges. The department says, we like this guy. We're not going to get rid of him. Because here in North Carolina, you can get rid of an officer for anything. You don't need an excuse. They don't like you, boom, you're out. Sheriff's department, new sheriff comes in, he gets rid of half the department and puts his people in. That's just the way it is. They don't need an excuse. So I agree with Donald that he got protected because the department can still, even if the DA didn't want to press charges, the department can still get rid of them. And this is the reason why you need federal oversight, because you're going to have departments like this that do things like that. And who's going to come in to fix it? Nobody. The department can do what they want. As was stated earlier, a lot of the time it's, hey, everybody knows each other. Most little departments, people grew up together, went to school together. You're not going to get rid of them. You're going to try to protect them. That's the bottom line. That's why federal oversight is needed.
As Jim says, federal oversight is needed. We need one rule for everybody. Isn't that right, Jim? I know that's right, Jim. That's what you say all the time.
Yep. And next up, we have Mark.
Yeah. So, any place you can have, like even in New York, if the boss wants to keep a guy, which we've had in Hempstead, and say even if the chief wanted to get rid of a guy and you have the political powers that persuade them not to, that it doesn't matter whether it's a right to work state or not. That's why I said it's apples and oranges. Right to work has to do with the ability of a municipality to fire somebody, and I believe I forget who said it, but they have to have done something. So say, for instance, which happens a lot, the department's policy is you have 3 accidents in a year, whether they're your fault or not, you're out. Right. So now he violated something. Then you can get rid of him. But as far as just walking in, I think Cheech said it, just walking in because it's a new boss and start firing people, I don't think so. I don't know where you're getting that information from, but that's not what a right to work state. That's what a right to work state means. It's they don't have to go through the process like you do up in New York to get rid of you. If you violated the policy, then they can just get rid of you instead of going through a long, lengthy court case. So,
aren't there some states, Mark, where the sheriff can just hire deputies without going through a process?
Well, sheriff departments are run a little different, and I'm not familiar with that.
That's what Chief said.
That's what I was talking about, Mark, is the sheriff's department.
Yeah.
The sheriff department can come in, and if you were from the other party, he'll get rid of you.
Yep.
Well, we were talking about police departments, so I didn't realize.
Yeah, no, I said sheriffs.
But it's run different.
But a lot of times the sheriff are the only police in that area.
But I'm talking about police departments, which is
I know we talk in terms, but I'm talking about activity. I'm talking about the work that's being done in a certain community. Certain communities do not have police officers; they have sheriff's department. So they do the same work with a different title.
But we were talking
even in New York. Even in New York, there's a difference between those who work on the Department of Corrections, because you have the correction officers and you have the sheriffs that work in the same department, and the correction officers who have peace officer status did not have the same status as the sheriff who had police officer status in the same department.
Okay, exactly. So I agree with you. I agree with the sheriff's department, but the fact is we're talking about the state troopers. That was really the focus on what we were talking about.
Not with that. That's not what I was focused on. I was focused on the part about the right to work state, and that when you leave it to the department to make that decision, which I said maybe 5 years ago, and Derek said today, it's just not good to have police officers um, policing themselves because of relationships, even occupation. And I don't want to hurt this guy's life. The guy is a police officer. I'm not trying to get rid of him. I'm not trying to hurt him. So I think it's just a bad thing when we do that. Oh my goodness, I didn't even see the time. Thank you for the time. I just think it's a bad thing when we police ourselves. I do.
You can't.
Right, we can't effectively do it.
Can't.
It doesn't work well. There needs to be standard operating procedures, and there needs to be definitive procedures in place that if they're violated, a person will be punished. And obviously the punishments will be meted out differently depending on what the procedures that are broken are, but there needs to be a definitive punishment. And a DA shouldn't even be involved. That's criminal. That's criminal. There should be departmental regulations that determine whether or not a person can remain with the department. Around 98 or 99, NYPD came out with what's called a general order. A general order actually changes departmental procedure in the patrol guide. And they came out with a general order that stated anyone that is found guilty or proven guilty of lying in a departmental investigation of any kind will be terminated with no hearing. No hearing. You're gone. So if you fill out an accident report and they know for sure you lied on it, you can be gone. If you have to sit down and be interviewed by your commanding officer or by whomever, like if you're involved in any kind of big case where the borough commander comes out and interviews you and you lie, you're gone. And you have no recourse. There's no hearing, no nothing, you're gone. And there has to be that type of thing in most departments, if not all, just because people walk away without getting punished. Yes, Mark.
Yeah, so in Hempstead, we had a situation. First of all, like you said, administrative is dealt with the chiefs of the department. If it's criminal, then it does go to the DA's office, and the DA can make recommendations. However, we've seen firsthand where the DA made recommendations and the officers were kept. And New York is not a right to work state. If you guys remember the case, DA's office said, no good. And guess what? The powers to be at the time said, no, we're going to keep them anyway.
Mm-hmm. That's true. And then if they wanted to get rid of them, they had to go through a process to get rid of the person still, even after the DA said what they had to say. But I think what Will's saying is totally different. I'm even reading Will's statement in our chat. Hey, I mean, it speaks for itself right there in his comments right there. And that's why I say, I don't know much about a right to work state and what they can and what they cannot do. But I'm just saying that if you can terminate a person for almost no reason, I'm sure you can keep them for almost any other reason.
Well, that would make the blue line a little thin.
Yeah.
Because partners wouldn't be covering for their partner lying and getting caught.
Yeah. We're at 428, guys, just to let you know.
I'm over and out.
You need to give it the D then.
All right.
That's it.
We got a quick really quick. I went in the annals of great videos and I found Donald's and Derek's first day on the job. So guys, take a look.
Oh Lord.
Oh no.
And I know it's me. Walking down, catching two house on the same street. Walking down, catching two off with the same my brother, get on your watch, little nigga, that's my beat. My spinning shoes fast, let's defender on the side street. My shoes fast, so the meet me on the line. Catch a buzz, hella hard, little nigga, yeah, that's me. I look the ball on the nigga tryna smack.
I couldn't tell who was who.
I
just wanted to briefly address
I quit.
Yeah, that cop was crazy.
Yeah.
They didn't have charges back when they first got started.
Oh boy.
Listen, thank you, Derek, for leading us. Thank you for those on Facebook Live for joining us. Thank you for the conversation that will take place when we go off the air. we have to finish this discussion. But
There'll be a whole lot of
listen,
lying.
again, listen. I like for everyone to put their input in, what your thoughts are, how you see things, because that's what makes us who we are. There's no way that I'm going to tell Mark what he's got to think, and there's nobody's going to tell me what I have to think. So we're all independents on here, and Kyle will see things differently than we see them.
And then you have
Jerry
the
saw some
confused
stuff
one.
today.
Confused?
Oh yeah, Jerry saw some stuff today that some of us may have overlooked, but she saw some stuff as well. Like, so I thank God for everyone on here. I thank you, especially those on Facebook Live, for joining us each and every week. We appreciate you. And again, Tyrone, happy birthday.
Birthday,
To,
Tyra.
to Jamel and Sharon, their anniversary is coming up on Saturday. So we just want to say happy anniversary to Jamel and Sharon. Before we get there, I'm sure we'll repeat it on next week. But thank you all for your participation. D, as always, taking care of our technology. Thank you so much for that. Derek, for hosting today and leading us in our discussion. Anyone want to volunteer for next week? Anyone want to volunteer for next week? Because if no one volunteered, I'll do it. But if you want to volunteer for next week, we'll do it off the air, and we'll go.
Rich.
I'll do it.
Rich.
Me no speak English.
All right, then get on here early so we can prepare. All right. Listen, thank you guys again. Let us pray. Let us pray. God, our Father, we thank you for being with us. We thank you for the discussion that took place today. We thank you for those on Facebook Live. We pray to God for officers and civilians and communities. Pray to God you allow us to work together, live together, so we can have a safe community that we can work together. We want to say thank you for each and every person on our panel. We pray to God you continue to watch over those who are sick, those who are shut in, and those who are grieved by the hands of death. We lift them up to you. We celebrate your child, Tyrone Green, today as he celebrates his birthday. We thank you now. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.